and the Conservative Party Vice Chair, Chris Philp, who's backing Theresa May's deal. Stephen Kinnock, are you part of a group of MPs trying to wrest control? Is the ghost of Cromwell stalking the corridors?
I am part of the Norway Plus group, and it's a really great cross-party group. It contains many of Chris's colleagues, many Labour MPs as well. We've been working together for months now to find a plan B that's going to command a parliamentary majority and that has a chance of reuniting our deeply divided country. On the question of these parliamentary processes, our position is clear. We want, when Theresa May loses on Tuesday, she should go straight onto the streets of Downing Street and pivot to Norway Plus, to our proposal to keep the UK in the single market and a form of customs union through the European economic area. And that has always been our position. And there's all sorts of nice parliamentary processes that you can go through, but actually we need to see some leadership.
Well, she's not going to do that, is she?
Because she needs to reach out.
She's totally opposed to staying in the single market and the customs union. So when she doesn't, are you then saying, right, we're going to pass an amendment that takes control away from the government when it comes to parliamentary business, and we'll do it ourselves, so that we can then introduce legislation to back Norway Plus or Common Market 2.0, as you call it?
Yeah, well, look, when her flagship piece of legislation fails on Tuesday, we're in uncharted waters then, and she has to change her pattern of behaviour. She has to actually see that there's a need for a compromise. We, of course, have to go through the motion of no confidence, and I very much hope that that passes, but if it doesn't, we have to have a plan B.
You're
the only way to
out,
get that plan B is to test the will of Parliament with a number of options. If the government won't do that, then Parliament will have to take back control to make sure that we get a clear view in Parliament. And there is no doubt that if we want to deal with this issue in a way that doesn't wreck jobs, that reunites our deeply divided country, we need a strong compromise. Okay. That is Common Market 2.0.
Assuming the deal is voted down on Tuesday, we will be looking at some sort of plan B. What's worse for you? Agreeing with Stephen Kinnock here and saying, OK, we Brexit, but we stay in the single market and the customs union, or a no-deal crash-out?
Well, our focus is on getting the deal passed on Tuesday, partly because
but you're not going to.
Partly
so which is worse?
Well, hang on. Partly because it delivers Brexit the people voted for, and secondly because the various alternatives are all pretty bad. Now, Stephen's Norway Plus Customs Union alternative is terrible. It entails all of the obligations of membership, paying the money, unlimited free movement, rule-taking, the effective jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, without any say at all over how those rules work. So, frankly, what Stephen is proposing is a significantly worse position than being in the European Union.
But is it also worse than being out without a deal?
Well, I mean, obviously the government are currently planning for that no-deal scenario, not because they want it to happen and not because they think it's going to happen.
But which is worse,
because
no deal or Stephen Kinnock's idea?
Well, look, I'm very clear that I'm going to vote for this deal because the alternatives are all unappealing. But the government are preparing for a no-deal scenario in case it happens. They're not preparing for Norway Plus.
But are you saying Stephen Kinnock's deal is such a bad deal that no deal is better than a bad deal?
Well, look, I'm not going to get into that sort of speculation, but there is no way I'm going to support...
It's next week.
Well, we're focused on winning the vote, but there's no way I'm going to support the Norway Plus Customs Union because it entails all of those obligations, the money, the free movement, the European Court, without having any say at all over how those rules work. This is a difficult situation. We're trying to...
But this is weird. It's like you're all playing poker with the British people. You're keeping your cards close to the chest.
Well,
you
what
all
we're
work
trying to
for
do
us. You should be telling us what your position is.
There's only one party, OK, that has a clear plan on this. Labour has no plan at all, other than trying to cause chaos and precipitate a general election. The only people with a plan are the Conservatives with the plan we're going to vote on. So for all of the shortcomings people may say that it has, it's the only game in town. It gets us out, and that's why we should support it.
So I think the British people have got quite tired of Conservative politicians coming on and saying they're going to win on Tuesday. It's not going to happen. They are flogging a dead horse. We therefore need a responsible plan B, and it's a plan B that both respects the outcome of the referendum and how close the result was. 52-48 is a mandate to move house but to stay in the same neighbourhood. It is not European Court of Justice jurisdiction, it's the EFTA court. There are many examples of divergences. Articles 112 and 113 are safeguards on the free movement of labour. The EEA Joint
let's
Committee
not debate the intricacies
just
yet
but it's really important, Christian, that we get the facts on the table because the British people have had enough.
The point is, it's not being put to Parliament, let alone the British people. So let's not get into the detail at the moment. Chris Philp, if she loses, this will be the government's biggest legislation. It's worse than losing any budget. Why on earth should she have the right to carry on as Prime Minister?
Well, because when Theresa May became Prime Minister 2.5 years ago, we had, as Stephen just said, a divided country, a deeply divisive referendum, and an incredibly difficult set of circumstances. So the task she faced and the task she's been battling to carry out over the last 2.5 years has been a virtually impossible task.
But
so
if you
it's
fail,
not surprising it's been so hard.
Convention says if you fail to get your most important legislation, you go.
Well, I think we're in a completely...
Why shouldn't she?
Look, because we're in a completely different set of circumstances where we're attempting to do something which no country has ever done before. It's a deeply divisive issue, and it's not surprising in the slightest that it's proving to be a very difficult task. But this plan can work, and that's why I'll be supporting it.
Can I ask you about Jeremy Corbyn's position, though, which we saw that second report on? I mean, do you believe that Labour members are leaving because of their concern over Jeremy Corbyn's refusal so far to back a second referendum?
It's possible. I mean, we are a pro-European party. We've always believed in having close cooperation with our European partners and allies. So we need to make sure that we deliver on Brexit, but we deliver a form of Brexit that actually respects the outcome of the referendum and respects how close it was.
On what scale is it happening, do you believe?
I honestly don't know.
But you do think people are leaving?
Logic would suggest that that's going to happen at some point if people feel that we haven't put forward a clear enough position. But in fact, Labour's position is to have a customs union and a strong single market deal. That is Norway Plus. All that our plan does is put flesh on the bones of what Labour has said it wants to achieve through our frontbench position.
So if Theresa May comes back and says we'll make the customs union permanent, do you think Labour should back it?
It's not enough because you have to have single market. If you look at what causes friction on the Irish border, customs union is only around 20% of the legislation that causes friction. It's all about the single market. You've got to have regulatory alignment so that you don't need to use the backstop and so that we can protect the jobs and the livelihoods of the people we were elected to represent. It's the only responsible course of action.
But the future framework, which talks about the trade deal after the transition, does leave those sort of questions still up for debate. And it does talk about having some levels of in alignment to minimise the friction you're describing. So that is a debate we're going to sort of have
It's
over
up
the
for
next
grabs
year
in the
as we
future, is the idea.
But it's
Thank you
too
both
much
very
fun.
much.